Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream or radio audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about some various articles that I've seen floating around that refer to or attempt rather to measure and provide a chart for the levels of supposed media bias. Now, the purpose of the articles, they're propaganda pieces, is to say, well, there's no media bias. I mean, there isn't any. The media never tell lies. They only rely on hard facts. That's now, sure, there's a bit of analysis, but that's by your superiors and your betters that can explain things to you that you're too dumb and fucked up to understand. So let's have a look at this. Now, I've seen these charts where they claim that the amount of hard left-wing news and hard right-wing news, and they're purporting to be just looking at the major outlets here, and the amount of hard left and hard right news is about the same. In fact, there's slightly more hard right news than there is, neo-Nazi, fascist, Hitler news is slightly more than the hard left news. The hard left news, by the way, isn't bad. It's, their intentions are good. Not like those hard right fucking Nazis. But anyway, they say it's about the same, little bit more hard right news. Now, they do concede that soft left is more prevalent, but what they categorize as soft left is interesting. And then they've got quite a big sort of 30 to 35, depending on whose numbers you look at, by the way, between 30 and 35% of news, they say, is actually completely neutral. And so I drilled down to this one report and had a look at the news stations or the media outlets that they claim are neutral. I almost gagged. There's one, one of them is like a screaming hard left. Now, it depends whether you sort of look at it at absolutely hard left as in strict Marxist or hard left as in pushing globalist talking points and always trashing Trump, for example. So I guess you can play around a bit with the definition here, but let me just let me have a. Now, this is a station that they claim it's a large media outlet, and they claim it's completely neutral. It's neither left or right. Okay, so a pathos story about parents in the Gaza Strip who've lost where their children have died. And they're loading it up quite heavily with anti-Israeli. Actually, it's hard. Is it anti-Zionist, as in the right of the Israeli state to exist, or is it anti-Israeli or anti-Semitic? I can't actually determine that because it could take it. It really could fit into any of those categories, depending on how you want to look at it. Given that they insist or assert that the Palestinian state has primacy over the Israeli state, then you could say it's anti-Zionist. Anyway, a very, very anti-Israeli piece there, relying on the pathos. Little Abdul died in his mother's crying arms due to Israeli, and it's pitched in that way. There's no attempt at impartiality at all. An article on how evil Viktor Orban and Hungary are. Because, as we know, he would refuse state funding for LGBTQ, lesbian dance studies in university. So fuck, he's a Nazi, Jesus. Trump is evil, and we all know he's guilty of everything he's accused of. We don't need court cases for Trump. Orange man, bad. All right? So, hardly an impartial piece of reporting here. The women's rights issue, men are oppressors, evil white men, murderers, and hey, it's because of a misogynistic society. We got to do shit to do this. Or women and oppressed minorities should all be given PhDs as gifts because they're oppressed. Doesn't matter, they got an IQ of -5 million, they should be given it anyway. Evil Christians, who are all Nazis, by the way, oppose abortion or oppose abortion without rules, and so they're Christians, which means they're white, which means they're all neo-Nazis. more anti-Israeli stuff, women's equality in Asia. Women are not sexually liberated enough because of an oppressive, misogynistic, patriarchal society. Putin is evil. Another Putin is evil. The early Disney shows from, say prior to 1970 are all racist and have, they're misogynist and they're everything. Homophobic hate is everywhere, along with misogyny and patriarchy. You've got to fight. This is a news outlet that's listed as completely neutral. So just another anti-Israeli one, but another anti-Israeli one, yet another anti-Israeli one. Holy fuck! And yet one more. So we've got some serious anti-Israeli stuff here, and those are the main. He's a sports guy. He's a sportsman who had a major accomplishment, and because he's white, he's now that the story now is how white people are preventing non-white people from achieving sports greatness. So they even managed to turn something like that into an anti-white story. So anyway, these are just the main headlines. So you couldn't get a more leftist, pro-globalist view of things if you tried. And every story that they introduce, they start off with a fact, and say that the volcano exploded, but really volcanoes are racist, misogynist, Nazi, fascist. They'll even use that as a launching pad to insert propaganda into it. So on this issue of media bias, it's insanely ridiculous. What is hard, fanatical, hysterical leftist and pro-globalist and certainly Orange Man bad stuff everywhere. What fits that category, they say, is soft left or neutral. So if you look at the mainstream channels that they're looking at, all the mainstream cable, the government-run stations, ABC, all that sort of stuff. They then use online social media things to say, well, look at all the propaganda from the right. But if you look at the entire mainstream, end to end, all government stations, all cables, all that sort of stuff, they're all very, very pro-globalist and very hard left, and take every opportunity to insert, race, anti-white stories and race and gender and LGBTQ issues into fucking everything. They inject it into fucking everything, including, if you look at the Hollywood entertainment, that sort of thing. But in order to find right-wing stuff, they have to go searching around the social media space. That's not a reasonable comparison. So I'm calling bullshit on this whole media bias thing. There is not a major outlet or a large international media or a government-funded station that isn't fully on board with leftist. And remember, the globalists use the leftist thing just to create social division, because if they can create the social division, it makes them easier for them to assume complete ideological control of everything, which is their purpose. So they push it for that, but they don't give a flying fuck about women or feminists or LGBTQ, not even a flying fuck. They're just there they're being used as cat's paws to create the social disruption that the globalists need to clear the way for their imposition of their ideology. No, this thing about media bias is absolute nonsense. The leftist globalist media bias is hysterical. It's just way off the charts. The only thing that's annoying the globalists and the narrative control type people is that more and more people, particularly straight white males, are turning off the mainstream channels and looking at boutique news stories or news outlets online, as indeed I do. The only reason I look at mainstream media is to get raw material for putting putting stories onto onto my channel. But otherwise, the lies and the deceptions and the cheating and so on just turned me off years ago. And so now I just won't look at it. You're being a Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.